everybody. My name's Ian Benjamin, and I want to say thank you for joining us today. We are blessed with a company of some real, gurus, experts from within the world of data. We have Dominic Dorant. Dominic is a data specialist. He has worked in data for like 7, 8, 10 years, and he can be bringing some value to the event today. And then we've also got Nedum OB. Nedum is an expert, a trainer, a coach who spends his time teaching individuals about data, from whether it's a data analyst through to data scientist types of opportunities. Hey Eva, how you doing? Good to see you. And so without further ado, I'm going to give you a bit of an intro into why the BDPN was set up and a bit of an insight into what's happening today. So some of you may know that I'm a recruiter. I'm a recruiter of digital people, and there is no reason why any of you that put the time in to perfect your craft should be denied the right career opportunity to secure that job, to secure that step up in data or the role of your dreams. And in my opinion, to be denied that shouldn't happen. However, there's often a barrier. There's a racial barrier. There is not a community to help and encourage you. And we've all got stories and experiences that those barriers that have been put up to not allow us to achieve our goals. So, however, some of my peers, for example, Nedum and Dominic that are here today, Tolu Adebekan, a friend of mine, they're all in data and they're reaching significant heights in their role. So it is achievable. But the majority of black men and women that have come through or coming through the ranks have been overlooked at some stage, and have not been supported, and their wins or their achievements haven't been celebrated. And I really want to change that. I want to change that. So as a recruiter, I should not have to speak to black digital professionals who lack confidence. Some deciding to stay and work in a toxic or non-rewarding environment. Essentially, individuals that sit on their hands and due to repeatedly being rejected for internal promotions or external career opportunities, and their decision to just settle for what it is, that troubles me. It really does. I'm a dad of 2, and I wouldn't want that to happen to my 2 children, to put up with what's faced in front of them, to feel as though they can't achieve their ultimate goal. So in my opinion, this will continue unless we have more white allies, sponsors in positions of influence that can help black individuals achieve their goals, essentially. And BLM, 3 years ago now, George Floyd, that kind of changed the perspective and gave me the confidence to, from a recruitment perspective, to be unapologetic about representing experienced black talent, but which was kind of like shunned upon prior to that, and I feel as though that I could share with you all that, I mean, from a recruitment perspective, even though there's been a little bit of change, there's still resistance from companies who pretend to be ambassadors of D&I, of more equality and change. But there's still resistance there, because I speak to companies all the time and who claim to be D&I oriented, but when it comes to actually putting more black people on the shortlist, it does kind of fall short. So the BDPN, the action that we want to do is to provide a platform that encourages individuals to learn from each other as a community, to do these webinars, to have in-person live events, day in the life interviews that showcase individuals of color that are experiencing growth and success, and to share those wins and ideas and knowledge with a community that's specific to data. So that is why the BDPN was founded in May or June, where it was earlier this year, and that's what we want to do. And so far to date, we've got newsletters going out once a month. We've got day in the life interviews with data professionals that we share. The website's gone live this week, or towards the back end of last week, with a lot of content on there to help and encourage individuals. We've got an event happening at the Salesforce Bluefin building in next month in September, where some Black data leaders are going to be speaking. We've got sponsors there, employers that are going to be talking about working within their organizations, because essentially recruitment is not enough. It's all what goes on behind it that's going to help upskill you to make you more appealing, so you cannot be denied, essentially. So that's my promise, and that's what we're looking to do. So that's the reason why it's been created. I don't want to go on about it anymore, but I hope you understand what I'm about and what we're doing. So today we're blessed to have Dominic, Nedum, who are the gurus, the trainers from a data analyst perspective. Blaze Nanji as well has already helped me kind of coordinate this. So so that's it. I'm going to kind of hand it over to Nedum. Nedum's going to do the first segment of today's presentation about the role and the career and some of the skills that are needed to become a data analyst, and to kind of summarize that process with you all. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Nedum. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nedum, as introduced by Ian. I'm sorry, by Benjamin. And we're going to take us through a slide which I've put together. Just trying to share my screen. Okay. So I just put something together. Was thinking of a title to actually call this, and it talks really. We're just going to talk about data analysis in general, what it involves, and for those of us that are considering going to this field, what sort of skills you need to have, and other opportunities as well for even those already in working as data analysts. What other opportunities might be out there which they can upskill to. So I've worked as a data analyst myself. Have over 8 years as a data analyst. Transitioned into a data trainer role about 5 years ago. So hopefully during the discussions, I will share some of my experiences of getting into this field and the opportunities that equally lie ahead. So we'll start with just what's data, where does it actually come from? So data is simply everywhere. Data is everywhere. And for us to actually recognize data, we need to start asking questions. So for example, how many people are in this session? That is a data point itself. And it already existed, but if we didn't actually pay attention and start asking questions of how many people are here, they won't be able to capture that data. Might say, okay, how many people are we expecting? When did these people actually sign up for this session? These are all individual data points. So simply, data is just facts and figures. So facts, and categorical, kind of a categorical data. So like name of people, if, what's the gender? Is it male, female, or non-binary? What's the average age of someone that's in this group? Things like that. So data is all around us, and whether we capture it or we don't capture it, it does exist. So simply data, like I mentioned, represented as either numbers, or it can be represented also as category, which is just label or different things. So businesses have been capturing data, both ones that are probably useful and some that are not very useful. And for business to start thriving, businesses are now focusing more on trying to get some value out of the data that they actually hold. And that's what creates the opportunity for us as aspiring data analysts or existing data analysts. That's what makes it possible for us to actually have these opportunities. So generally the data in the world at the moment, the amount of data being created every single day is estimated to be almost 330 million terabytes of data being generated every single day. To put this into perspective, back in 1986, all the data in the world at that time was just 2.6 exabyte of data. 2.6. As of 2014, we had 5,000 exabyte of data, which increased to 68,000 exabytes of data in 2020. So the amount of data has been doubling every 2 years. And the growth, if you look at the chart just in front of you, which was gotten from Batista, you can see that just 12 years away from now, the data in the world will probably be like 4 times the amount of data we have today. This creates enormous opportunities for organizations, but organizations not able to interpret this data by themselves. They need the help of data analysts, data scientists, data engineers, and a couple of other data roles in order to derive value from this data. And why do we see this kind of exponential growth? If you have a look at this chart in 2010, we have 2 exabyte of data and then 12 exabyte of data. You can see just in 5 years, that's almost like 6x, 6 times the amount of data we had in 2010. And what is driving this is basically the cheap storage facilities, the cloud, social media, and just us be able to have not just capturing data manually like we used to capture it back in the days, but now we've got sensors, Internet of Things that are helping us to capture and generate this data at a phenomenal rate. It's estimated about 340 billion emails are sent every day. I don't know how many emails you've sent today already or how many you've received, but this is equal to the data is being stored somewhere. Google searches, about 8.5 billion Google searches every single day. I've probably done like 10 already, or maybe more than 10 already today. Tinder swipes, for those of you that on Tinder, looking at 1.5 billion worth of swipes. And that's just a few of the things that are causing this astronomical and growth in data. And I anticipate that even with generative AI, we'll probably see this scale probably even more than what is actually estimated. And with the amount of, as people get familiar and start to use generative AI to generate content, this growth is going to grow astronomically. So all this leads to why data analysis actually exists. And this is one question that when I'm delivering trainings, I try to find out from what's data analysis. Even data analysts find it difficult to define what is it that they do, and that's because they don't do just one single thing. Data analysis is a process that involves a number of steps, and those steps I have tried to list some of them above. I'll just talk us through them. So data analysis involves starting with the business problem. So the business wants to know, why is revenue going up? Why is revenue going down? Why do we have so many complaints? Why is complaints, maybe we won't complain about complaints actually going down, but there is a business problem that your business is interested in. Once we know what that business problem is, then we can proceed to the next step, which is collecting data that will address or answer that business problem. Once all that data is collected, we need to do some data inspection, check that the data we have is actually useful. Is it time bound? Is it within time frame that we're looking at? Are the data aligned and they're in the right format? Have we subsetted the data correctly? Do we need to do any kind of further transformations to transform our data from one form to another? After we've identified all that, then we'll proceed to actually do the data cleaning. And this is where most analysts will spend probably 60 to 70% of their time trying to get the red data all cleaned up. You might have heard about garbage in, garbage out. It does plays even more important role in data analysis. You spend the same amount of effort. I always say to those of my training, the same amount of effort you spend analyzing data is the same amount of, probably the same amount of time you spend analyzing clean data. The only difference that one will give you the correct output and one will give the incorrect output. So very important stage, making sure the data is actually clean. After that, we then go to analyze our data. This involves a number of things. Could be explore data analysis. It could be just doing descriptive analysis or doing predictive analysis. Depends on the business question. So that is what will determine the kind of analysis that you will need to eventually carry out. Then some data visualization to be able to get some further insight, interpreting your results. So from the analysis you've done, from the visualization you've created, what can you see? What is this data actually telling us? And after that, most times we'll finish up with communicating our insight to our stakeholders, making some recommendation based on our findings. So there are equally a few other things probably involved, but in general, this is what data analysis is all about. It's about converting this piece of data, these individual data points that we have, into information. So why do we do this? What gets measured improves. So if we want to improve revenue, we need to measure revenue. If we want to improve customer engagement, we actually need to measure and see whether are we improving customer engagement. And that is all part of the reason why data analysis is important. So furthermore, it also helps us in making informed decisions, removes bias, individual bias from decisions that are made within businesses. It helps us to increase revenue, reduce costs. We can identify where cost is going, out of hand, and we're able to reduce that, improve operational efficiencies. We can also do customer profiling with this, which can help us in acquisition or retention of customers, or even do a targeted marketing market campaign. So in general, data analysis just enables us to determine what is working and what is not. So generally, there are 4 major types of data analysis. And the first one is descriptive analysis. And this is where most people will start their data analysis career. What does the descriptive data analysis tell us about? Simply just tells us what has happened. If you want to know, how many people attended this session, what was the average age of people in this session. Basically, we're taking data that is already existing, and we are trying to describe using one of the descriptive statistics or descriptive analysis techniques to determine what has actually already happened. I think I have an error here. So I probably wanted for what might happen or what has happened. So diagnostics analysis talks about why this happened. So when you try to do gap analysis, maybe there's kind of an increase in sales or there's a decrease in sales. You want to find out what is driving this. Is this accidental? Or if there's kind of an increase in let's say complaints, you want to know what's caused that. So when we do diagnostic analysis, what we're trying to do is just find out why something happened. Then we'll talk about predictive analysis, which is basically what is going to happen in the future. And there are a lot of techniques for this. If you're already an existing data analyst, this is probably an opportunity. This is probably your next step. Trying to learn the skills that will enable you to start getting into predictive analysis. And finally, we have prescriptive analysis, which is what should we do next. So if this cannot be used on its own, probably used in conjunction with some other kind of analysis like diagnostic analysis. So we found out, okay, the complaint is gone up because of X. So if X happens, what should we do? Now we create a series of solutions, which is what prescriptive analysis is all about. Create a number of solutions that we can now apply to a specific or situation that might arise. So a good example I like to always give is think about when you go to your GP let's say with some kind of illness. They don't start trying to invent the way when you get there. They already have a list of prescriptions that they will give to patients based on what the patient actually turns up with. So if you turn up with a back pain, they already have a prescription already in the system to prescribe to you. And this is basically what prescriptive analysis is all about. It's about developing different kind of solutions that can be applied based on a specific situation that might arise. So say, for example, a customer decides that they want to leave us. A customer calls and like, oh, I want to cancel my contract. If we have prescriptive analysis, if we've done prescriptive analysis, we'll be able to offer that customer a kind of solution that might tempt them to actually stay. And I'm sure some of you might have actually experienced this. Maybe you've called up one of your providers trying to cancel, and you ended up not canceling because they were able to offer you a deal which you really hadn't lined out for a customer with your similar characteristics. So prescriptive analysis has been called the future of data analytics, and it's just for a good reason. And this kind of analytics goes beyond explanation and prediction to recommend the best course of action in moving our business forward. So it's especially useful for driving data-informed decision making, because all these solutions have already been outlined and can be applied when the situation arises. So talk a little bit more about the roles. Some of them you'll be familiar with. So talk about the roles and the skills that are required for a data analyst. So these skills can be divided into two. We have the soft skills and we have the technical skills. So skills that are required to be a data analyst, one, you need technical skills. So apart from being like in numbers, being maybe having some skills in mathematics and statistics, you don't necessarily need to have a degree in any of this, but you have to be kind of person that is not scared by seeing 16 zeros behind a number. So apart from having some of those soft skills, you need technical skills. You need to have knowledge of how to use Excel, which is at least the minimum barrier to entry into this skill. There are loads of resources out there for you to learn as Excel. SQL, you definitely need to know if you want to give yourself a better chance of getting a job as a data analyst. And SQL is actually the second most used programming language in the world, not because of data analysis per se, but the whole world is made up of data, and data needs to be stored somewhere, which is in a database usually, and SQL is the language that is used to access data stored in a database. You also need to know have some skills with some data visualization tools. So Power BI, very popular. They also did other data visualization tools out there, but at least they all have some kind of similarity. So just pick one, probably pick the most popular one, which will give you the best opportunity to grab to get a job. In terms of statistics, you just need to know basic stats, know what major central tendency is, so mean, median, mode, know what those are, know measure of dispersion, measure of distribution, hypothesis testing, not necessarily, but have ideas of these kind of things. Data cleaning and processing, so you need to know what are the types of different types of data. So if you have to clean your data, what kind of thing are you looking out for? And then know the skills to be able to apply those steps to actually process and clean that data. Communication skills, very, very important. As a data analyst, you'll be working cross functions. So you find yourself working with finance, working with operations, working with compliance, working with various stakeholders, working in projects. So having good communication skills is important, is a soft skill, which can be learned. I know most data analysts don't like to talk, but it's something that you have to develop. Also, reporting and writing skills, very, very important as well, and presentation skills. Problem-solving skills, you have to, like I said, having like a math, obviously, will already, if you like maths, means that you like to solve problems already. So that probably should be, second nature to you. analytical skills, being able to look at the problem holistically, the critical thinking skills, problem framing. Another one which cannot be taught, domain knowledge, and this is very, very important. So if you want to be a data analyst, if you're already working in a particular industry, let's say you're already working in retail, you already have knowledge of retail. You want to start looking for data analysis roles within retail, because when you come in, if you come in there and start analyzing the data, it will become like second nature to you, rather than if you went to a field you had no clue about. It might be a little bit more challenging. So domain knowledge is very, very important, and you can only learn that within a particular field. And then you need to be curious. You need to have attention to detail, good time management, and adaptability. Why I say adaptability is because all the answers might not be presented to you, but you need to be aware and be able to adapt to situations as they change. And also, most of you think on your feet. So what does a data analyst do from day to day? So these are a few tasks that a data analyst will get involved in. They will be involved in data preparation, which they will spend a good significant amount of their time actually doing, collecting, cleaning, transforming data, carrying out exploratory data analysis. So exploratory data analysis is all about trying to find insight within the data. So not necessarily that you have a question you're trying to solve, but just trying to see what is the data actually telling me? What does the data contain? So it will involve you asking the what, the why, the how, the when, the where kind of questions in your data set to be able to get to those. Doing different types of data analysis, data visualization, reporting and communicating, collaborating with others. I mentioned earlier, you find yourself working cross-function. One day working with finance, another day working with operations. I think one thing that's also probably underlooked quite a lot is that as a data analyst, you never stop learning. The landscape is always changing and you have to adapt. So personal development is a huge part of being a data analyst. You find yourself working on projects because of your skills level. If you're working, if projects are being worked on, you see yourself being dragged in to help with the data, aspect of that project. You also will be, one day probably doing IT work or solving IT problems, because you're probably one of the smartest or problem solvers in that team. So you will see yourself being dragged into things that require someone with problem solving skills within your organization as a data analyst. So we mentioned tools earlier, but I have a list of tools and probably what they're used for. So Excel, like I mentioned, if you want to get into this role, do look at having at least a good level of competency using Excel. Using Excel is different from actually knowing what to do with Excel. So learn the technical skills and then try and develop the soft skills. With Excel, you can do a lot with Excel. You can do all sorts of data analysis. You can do inference analysis. You can do predictive analysis with Excel. And something I'll talk about later on. So Excel is good for storing data and also doing statistical analysis. You got a number of data visualization tools, Power BI, Tableau, ClickView, and a few others. You can also use Python as a data analyst, which is open source. This enables you to be able to automate some of your processes. Also, you can complete all the kind of analysis you can do in Excel. You can also do in Python and beyond. And you've got R, which is a data statistics tool, also a programming language that you need to learn a little bit of coding and to be able to use. You got databases, MySQL, MS SQL, and a few others, and a few other statistical tools that are equally available to you. So if you're already using some of these tools, kudos. If you're not using some of these tools, try and research into them, especially if you trying to progress within your role. The more valuable you become to your team, obviously, the more they'll try to, hopefully they'll pay you and compensate you for, for the knowledge that and the value that you bring to the team. So, another role that is trending within the data field is a data engineer. So if probably you've seen this title somewhere, you're wondering what they do. And what you probably will notice from when I start sharing the skills for these roles is that there are skills that you can actually take from one to the other. So data engineers, what they basically do is that they build, maintain the infrastructure that supports data storage, processing, and retrieval of data throughout organizations. And they also build pipelines, which is basically automating the data processing to be used by other data roles like data analysts, data scientists, or if there is kind of a data-centric application, they create the pipelines that automate data feeds to those applications and other data consumers. So this is a role that's also in high demand at the moment. So if you already did analyst and you got some data analysis skills, there are a few more skills that you can develop that can enable you to transition into data engineer if it is something that you're interested in. Data engineer seem more as a IT role, more than a data analyst role. But we already have some of the skills and to transition into this already. So what are the skills required to become a data engineer? So programming skills, so you need to be able to program. One of the popular languages data engineers use is Python, and a few others, Ruby, Scala. So if you're already programming in Python, then you already started the foundation for that. Data warehousing, which they use for the extract, transform, and load process, extract data from the source to load into the data warehouse. You also have to have knowledge, need to have knowledge of OS, so operating systems like Linux, Microsoft, or Mac. You have to have knowledge of database systems, SQL, and NoSQL technologies. You need to have knowledge also of cloud computing, softwares, data analysis software like MapReduce, Hive, Pig. These are used for big data analytics. You need to have critical thinking skills. You can see that this is probably a soft skill that is required even as an analyst. Machine learning skills. We don't necessarily need to know how to do machine learning. They need to understand what a data scientist does so for able to appreciate why they need particular data fits. And you definitely do need to have communication skills because you're working cross-function with other people outside your team. So you need to be able to communicate effectively across with stakeholders. The other things also is that with data engineers, they're equally involved in data cleaning. So when they create their pipelines, those pipelines in the ETL process, we equally involve them, transforming their data as well. So they need to have data cleaning skills to be able to automate those processes. And for data science, also data science slightly different from your data analyst role in terms that data science is more geared towards transforming and getting insight from big data. So big examples of data science products is your Amazon recommendation system, Netflix recommendation system, and things like that. Some skills listed, a number of skills, quite similar to what you have with the data engineering skills, but more to that, you need to have statistics and probability machine learning skills. You need to see. So I'm just noticed I'm running behind time. So I'm just going to conclude on the next 2 slides. So AI for data analysis. So I'm sure most of you know what artificial intelligence stands for, and this is the ability for your computer to be able to think and do things by itself. And there are a few AI tools that you might not be aware of. Your Excel now has the power to actually do AI. You can ask Excel a question and you actually do some analysis for you. So if it's not something you've explored, and try and look into that. Power BI also has such capabilities as well, with 3 major features. They got the Q&A, which Excel actually has. You got a key influencer and the composition tree. So do check those out in Excel. And then generative AI. So generative AI, we've seen ChatGPT since towards the end of last year when we had this. For data analysis, is still not very competent in doing data analysis at the moment, but experts are optimistic that this will actually improve with time. What benefit with generative AI give to us as a data analysts? One of the things it will do for us is remove the human bias. So at the moment when we're doing data analysis, we have to ask the question of our data to be able to get the insight. But with generative AI, we expect that we can ask, you can put your data into, maybe hopefully in the future, you can put your data into ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, give me some insights. So this will not limit it to try to find out, what is the demographic that is buying, or what is the age range of my potential customers. You're not the one physically asking the data these questions, which can be limited to maybe a number of questions, but generative AI might be able to generate thousands of scenarios and be able to generate insight based on those thousands of scenarios. And also we have finite time, and generative AI, I mean, if you try ChatGPT, you can see it comes up with thousands of words in seconds, which obviously is beyond our human capability. Also communication, our limited knowledge of the world, and unknown unknowns. We don't know what we don't know, and hopefully generative AI can enable us to be able to bridge that gap. So yeah, so generative AI hopefully will enable us to bridge the gap between what we know and what we don't know. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. If you have questions, please drop them in the chat.
Yeah.
We'll come to those questions after Dominic has done his.
Nedum, thanks a lot for that, man. Appreciate that, giving us that insight into the data analyst career trajectory journey from beginning to what that could look like going forward. So thank you, Nedum. Honestly, we want to kind of get you involved in future educational webinars going forward. So big up to you for that. Right. Anyone who's got any questions, we're going to do the questions at the end. So if you can type the questions in, if not, you can ask them verbally. But if you want to type it, feel free to type them in at the end. Sorry, feel free to type them in now so we can read them out at the end. And we want to do, I think Blaze is going to organize a collective image screenshot. Is that right, Blaze?
Yes, that's all right. If we can just please come on screen, come on camera, so we can just take a screenshot of our participants today. That would be great.
How do we get everyone
on? Yeah, I've got everyone.
Right?
I've got everyone. So if we can just come on camera.
If you want to, that is. If you want to come on.
If you want to, yeah. If you want to come on camera, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
You got one, yeah?
Last one. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Right, now for the second half of the second segment, I think it's a bit more concise than Nedum's, but also just as valuable, is from Dominic Dorant. Dominic is a data specialist. He's now made the transition into DevOps, but that's also part of his presentation. So without further ado, Dominic Dorant. Thanks, Dominic.
Thank you very much, Ian. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, so first of all, Nedum, thank you very much for that presentation. It was very thorough. Thank you very much for that. A lot of things to glean for people. So I'm just going to talk about a few things, not too much really. Obviously conscious of time, and if people have questions on the ask, they can do that afterwards. So the first part I want to talk about is, why do you want to be a data analyst? Because obviously you need to have done a presentation. There's a lot of information in there, but sometimes you need to ask yourself that question: why do you actually want to be a data analyst? So for myself now, a few years ago, I was working for BT Openreach. Obviously, they've now split. They're two different entities, but I was very much the person, you know, at the green box, climbing poles, doing all those kind of things, in and out of houses, doing installations and stuff. And for me, I wanted more. I'll talk to people. Again, this is BDPN, so I'll talk to a lot of people. You know, like, what kind of positions do us black guys have, or you know, what's there for us? And a lot of times, didn't really see much opportunity. And I thought to myself, I don't want to do this for 20 years, but let me look at something that's a little bit more in demand, something I can see a big future in. And for me, that was data analysis. I was looking at data, I was looking at insights, and then listening to all these different kind of concepts. And I thought to myself, you know what? That's something I want to do. And not only is it for me, the job that I was doing as an engineer, that was very much practical. Whereas I can be practical, but my preference was more in a stationary location where I could be using my skills. I'm in front of a laptop. Obviously, I like my flexibility and whatnot, but I would like to be someone who's technical by the laptop, being able to use my skills. And let's not also dismiss the fact that it's financially rewarding as well. So there's a lot of financial rewards that you can get from being a data analyst, whether it's a permanent role or even as a contractor. That's for me what I want to be, a data analyst. So I think for everyone here on the webinar, you need to ask yourself, why do you actually want to be a data analyst or a data engineer or a data scientist? What is it that you're going to get from that? Because that will obviously help you throughout your career. Think of it like this analogy. So let's say you move into a new place, or you've got an existing place that you have and you're refurbishing it. You know, you have to strip off the wall, probably get like a steam machine just to get off some of that bit of wallpaper. You've got to use filler for the holes and the little cracks and whatnot, and then you've got to sand it off. Well, that's kind of like data cleaning. That's what it's like. So I mean, that is one of the aspects of being a data analyst, and obviously being someone that's quite important in terms of the data that you're going to present or have some kind of results from. Nedum spoke about garbage in, garbage out, where you got to make sure it's no longer garbage. You've got to make it something that's quite proper. Well, it's okay when you've got 10 rows by 10 rows in Excel, but what happens when you've got thousands of rows or millions of rows of data and columns and all kind of records? So that's something that you need to ask yourself. You know what? I don't mind cleaning data. I don't mind looking for missing values and, you know, changing formations and all sorts of stuff. So that's something that I want you to kind of think about that. But obviously after that, once you sand off the wall, you can now, you know, design it nicely. You can put up your different pictures. You can really have your little designer mindset. And that's the same thing when it comes to data visualization as well. You can visualize things, you can create things and really show value and productivity to the team or the company that you're in. The second point I want to talk about is you can bring something to data analysis. Don't think that you're limited because you've either not been in data before, or you might not have worked in an office before, or even irrespective of where you come from geographically. You can be working as a chef or a mechanic or in insurance. It doesn't matter what industry you've come from or what you're doing even now. Maybe you might even be like a housewife. Maybe you might not be someone who's worked in the corporate world, or maybe you're just studying now, or you're finishing studying, you're about to complete what you're studying. You're thinking, what angle, what pathway do I want to go? Well, there is the ability for you to be a data analyst. Like I said to you from before, I was an engineer. But one of the great things about that was I was meeting new people every day. And that helped me to learn to work collaboratively with people. But at the same time, there were times when I'd be working on wires and working by myself. So I knew how to work by myself as well as with other people as well. So don't think for yourself because of what you're doing now that you can't be a data analyst. You can make those initial steps. And the most important thing I think as well is about networking. Don't think to yourself that you can do this thing by yourself. You need to have a network of people. It doesn't matter. It could be one or two or a few people. It could be a whole community level. We have a network. You have to be able to work with people, speak to people. You know, how did you do this? How do I do that? Or what should I be looking at? Or what kind of resources should I be learning to obviously get myself to be an efficient data analysis? And I think the last point I want to talk about, obviously it's 10 minutes, so I understand the questions want to be asked. So the last point I want to talk about is opportunities beyond. When you look at the description of my role, I'm now a senior DevSecOps engineer. So my initial launch pad was in data. So I was a data analyst. I was also a senior business and data analyst at one point. Then I became a data specialist, and I was actually doing that during COVID. So at a time when people was going on furlough and some people was losing jobs, being made redundant, I was efficiently working as a data specialist, and I was actually a contractor at the time. So I was making decent amount of money, and I was able to work in data. So therefore, that was a few years ago, but then I made a transition into DevOps. And the job that I do now, I actually started at this company last October. Within 6 months, I've already been promoted.
Dominic, what does DevOps mean? Just so some individuals don't understand what that means. So,
well, when you look at the life of a data analyst interview, I would go into that. But for example, DevOps, so you have your developers, they create the applications, they're working on their stuff, and then you have the operations are the people who are operating that. But then a lot of times there's not much communication. So if something goes wrong, it's kind of like, well, we've finished doing the application, we're working on something different. So as a DevOps, you're in the middle. You're working as a team, we're making sure that everything's automated, and we basically being able to see where there's problems. That's where you're basically working throughout the whole software development lifecycle. So you're able to understand, okay, this needs to be updated, or whatever part of the software development cycle you're working at. But as a SecOps engineer, that means that you're working on the security as well. So in other words, I'm working in cybersecurity. So if there's any kind of vulnerabilities, what kind of framework? So Nedum spoke about Python. So you might be someone who's a developer and you're working in a framework, but that framework that you're working in might have some vulnerabilities there. Or you might be working on a library and there could be problems. You know, that's a very old version. And if you use that version, then someone with some kind of malicious intent can come in, break up, you know, mess up the whole reputation of the company. So being in cybersecurity as well as DevOps and automation is obviously something which is great. It's in high demand right now. But that started off with me being a data analyst years ago. So I don't think that as a data analyst, that's all you're going to do is just rows and columns and, you know, a few visualizations, but you have the opportunity to do a lot of things. So you're not limited by what you can do, but there's a lot of opportunities for you to go there. So you might be someone right now, you might be looking at and thinking, okay, let me learn Python, or let me learn Golang, or let me learn R. And you can love to do that. Well, then that can be the launch pad for you to become a developer. You can become a Python developer, or you can become a Power BI developer or a Tableau developer. So those are different elements that you can obviously think about, concepts that you can put to your mind when you're working as an analyst, so that in the future, if you want to kind of go that direction, you have that direction. So those are the few points I just wanted to talk about.
Superb. Thank you for that. It's really, really valuable. I love the fact that it's you know, you can use it as a platform to get into other things, and you are testament to that. That's exactly what you've done, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not limited. You can stay in that trajectory and go into be an engineer, a scientist as well. So you can, if you're kind of more relevant to the initial role as an analyst. So look, great guys. Thanks a lot for that. I've got some questions here, and then if anyone's got any questions, but some that's come through that I'll put out to you and to Nedum. So what do you think are the 3 best qualities that great data analysts share? What do you think are the 3 best qualities that a great data analysts share?
I think one of the first things is obviously having an adaptive mind. So when you're working as a data analyst or insight analyst, when you're working in a team, working for a department, you need to understand the need of the project. Don't just show your skills, I know how to do this and such, but you need to be someone who brings value to that project and that department. So you need to understand what are the KPIs, what's the key point indicators that they're looking for in your results. For example, if you're working in a company where they have products, what's the best and the worst product? You know, what's bringing in the money, what's not bringing in the money, and have some element of forecasting as well. Well, maybe this region of the world, so let's say you work for a big enterprise, well, this region of the world, they're generating a lot of this, whereas this region, they're not. Therefore, now those who are higher up, the C-suite, the people, the directors, those who make big decisions, they can start saying, well, maybe we should withdraw from that part of the world and save money more, you know, invest more in this side. So you need to have an adaptive mind when you're working. I think the other one I would say is creativity. You need to analyze and present your different charts. Again, be flamboyant, but don't be over the top. Don't try to show that you need me and you're just doing a lot of crazy things. But at the same time, don't be plain, be professional. So you need to understand about creativity. And I think the last one, Nedum spoke about this during his presentation about upskilling. You need to be some to upskill. Don't just think, let me learn this one thing and that's it. Technology is always changing. Obviously, this year AI has been quite a big drive. Spend time, balance your time accordingly. Me, when I started to transition from an engineer to being a data analyst, honestly, there were some nights I didn't go to sleep. I'm up, doing a bit of research, learning SQL, learning Excel, learning Power BI, learning data sets, all these different things. And, while I'm doing my work, I'm hearing the birds chirping in the background. Oh, it's just tomorrow already. So sometimes you need to just have that drive to make sure that, okay, well, if I need to learn things, okay, well, what is Python? What is R? What is regression? What is neural networks? What is all these different concepts? How can I drive? So definitely have that upskilling drive as well.
Good, fantastic. One other question I've got here is, how would you explain your findings and processes to an audience who might not know what a data analyst does? How would you explain your findings and your processes that you took to an audience who might not know what a data analyst role is?
Nedum, do you want to do that?
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to your findings, if you present to a non-technical audience, use simplicity. Make sure your charts are as simple as could be. When it comes to visualization, there are a number of things you can use for insights. Simple bar charts, like you looked at my slide and I was trying to show the difference or the growth in data over time. I use a simple bar chart. I could have used a line chart to show that exponentially. So I'll say simplicity, keep it simple. Use simple visualizations. And when it comes to explaining, also keep away technical terms. Don't start talking about regression if your audience don't understand what regression is. So use just simple terminologies to explain your concepts.
Okay, cool. We've got a question from Eva. Is it in the chat, Eva?
Yes,
sorry, it's
we've
not
got
a
some
question.
questions in the chat, Ian.
Yeah, can you go back to your questions? It's not a question.
Right.
I wanted
so-
to add, so if the question that the person was asking, the best way to highlight that is through storytelling or demonstration of what is happening in terms of what you're finding of your data. You mentioned simplicity, but you want to have an example or something for a non-technical person because they still wouldn't understand spreadsheets, right? So you want to almost take it away from the techie bit and make it almost storytelling.
Yeah,
Right.
thanks, Eva. Yeah, storytelling, making the story simple, something that they can relate to.
Yes.
Thank you for highlighting that. Yeah.
All right.
There are a few questions in the chat.
Yes, please.
So
Question
I've got
for Nedum.
Yeah, there's one from Jeffrey.
Yes.
What is your actual part in working in data? So mine was kind of simple or accidental. I have my first degree in mathematics, so I've always been a numbers person. And I was working as a customer service advisor. I was discussing with a friend and he told me, why don't you do SQL? I was like, what's SQL? I never heard about it. So we talked about it. I started researching about SQL and SQL and selling for work in SQL. Discovered I needed to know Excel. Went back, started learning Excel. And it was just accidental, incremental until I landed my first job. I'm a data analyst. This was back in 2010. See any other questions? What are some of the things that you need to secure a role as a data in data field? Tips and so look at the skills that are listed. You need technical skills. You need soft skills. In terms of CV, try and customize your CV to the job you're applying to. So when you look at a job description, see the keywords there. Make sure that those keywords are taken care of in your CV. There'll be technical skills that they'll be requesting for. There'll also be soft skills. So you need to demonstrate in your CV that you have applied those skills, both technical and soft skills.
Sorry, just another thing to add to that as well. So I remember Eva spoke about experience, which is quite important as well. So when I was transitioning away from being an engineer, I started to work office jobs. I was working in energy as an account manager. So then there would be times when I thought to myself, all right, then let me use some of my skills to do some presentations. So let's say, for example, I was on a team, there was about 5, 6, 7 of us. And one of the ladies that was working there, she'd been there for like 10 years. You know, they do the same thing over and over again. But I thought, you know, let me introduce you to a much more automated way of doing it. So then I was able to do that. So for me, in my role at the time, I'm thinking, let me boost up my CV. Let me do things which I know will show value later on when I want to have a job interview. So therefore, when I was able to do that, it helps me so that when I'm asked an interview for a job, explain the time when XYZ. Oh, well, there was a time when, and I already got that experience. I've already done it before. That's me just kind of being proactive, thinking to myself, let me apply my skills. Okay, let me ask a question. Okay, when was a time when you was able to draw this result set? What did it mean? Oh, well, there was a time when I was working on SQL and I did this query and the query brought back these filtering, there's a bit of pattern matching, and I was able to show XYZ. So it's very much important to, with your CV, you know, you can put things there that sound good, but it helps a lot when you've done it yourself. So in any opportunity that you can kind of bring some sort of experience. So you might be working, I don't know, let's say you're working in retail. Where you think, well, how can I do that? Well, then maybe it might have to be a case of presenting, how you present to people that might not understand the product, but someone who does understand the product. So you have to kind of be very much empathetic and put yourself in another person's shoes so that when it's time for you to kind of showcase your skills, you're not just waffling, but you're showing value to what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. I think as well, from a recruitment perspective, I think it's key to document your, or be aware of how you're improving. So as Dominic alluded to then, if you've learned a new skill and there's an achievement, put it on the CV.
Yeah.
So when you do want to go to make a new role, you've got something there, even that you can kind of like fine tune it at the time, but just document it, put it down. And so you're always adding steps and achievements to your CV. So when you do need it, it's there for you to kind of fine tune and to add to it to one of the final versions. Another thing as well, you know, is to have a CV for each role that you apply for. Don't just have one CV. If you're going for roles that there's a little bit of similarity in the roles, then you have a CV relevant to each role. But that's a conversation for another day, or that I'm happy to have offline with any one of you if you want to reach out to me. But that's great, guys. Any more questions in the chat?
Yes, please. We've got a question from Ahmed Lassisi. I think this is for Dominic. How do one differentiate DevOps from data engineer in real life sense as a data professional?
So data in itself, as a data engineer, you're focusing solely upon the data. So again, that's when you've got big amounts of data. We need to really embrace the whole ETL process.
What's the ETL?
So extraction, transformation, and loading. Apologies. Again, see, there you go. That's you saying, do people understand that? So you have to understand the audience that you have. So therefore, that's very much the focus when it comes to an engineer, data engineer. You create pipelines, you're going from one process to the next. DevOps is completely different. It's actually not really much to do with data, but that's more a case of working with developers. They've got, you know, let's say, for example, you've got a PHP developer or a Python developer or a Golang developer, and they're creating their stuff. When they're creating their applications, they're going through different stages. You might have your testing, you might have your releases, you have your staging before it goes to production. Production when it goes live and it's being used out there in a corporate world or for different clients and stuff. And those who are obviously operating those applications, you're in the middle of that. So DevOps is actually nothing really to do with data, even though there will be times when you have access to different databases, like what Nedum spoke about in the presentation. So you might be someone who's like, okay, I need to retrieve a certain amount of data. We might use something like SQL. And that SQL will be able to retrieve from that data warehouse to get that information so that you can then kind of show a bit of insights or, you know what you're doing for something else, really. But DevOps and data engineering are two different things.
All right, thank you. We've just got this one from Dian Ekeji. We're running out of time. If you're entering into a new domain as a data analyst, how can you expedite your understanding of that domain?
I think I answered this one. When I got my first job, data analyst job as in logistics, I've never worked in logistics before. you can't get away from asking questions. You have to, make yourself a likable person, willing to help other people out, and so that when you have questions, people don't feel like you're disturbing them. So it's all about relationship building. Do your own research. But when you get into a new company, they might call their column something totally different from your last job. So you just have to be a likable person, be patient. With time, you will definitely get there, but it will require you doing research, asking questions when you're not sure, and building those relationships.
Okay, thank you. What are some resources do you use to keep your mind fresh as a data professional? And we've just got one last one. There are so many tools and concepts to learn. How do you discern which ones to focus on and block out the noise?
And that's why I think it's important, like I said before, about networking, because there's going to be so many tools. You've got things like Reddit, you've got even LinkedIn. So when you connect with people on LinkedIn, they're going to show their feed. And then, like, for example, I'll log on today, or I'll have all these different notifications, and these notifications are showing me something new in the cybersecurity world, or something new in the data world, some new technology. So therefore, once you've got that notification coming through, you can look at that feed and say, okay, let me make a note of that and research that, have a look at that as well. But then again, you've got people that you need to just connect with just in general, because they might be posting things, posting articles. You've got things like W3 schools. That's something that's quite widely known, and people use that to learn basics of something. So W3 schools. I think, and also, to be honest with you, YouTube. Can I be honest with you? Even YouTube, there's so much people that's, somebody's got some channel and they're talking about this, and this, and I'm like, okay, that's valuable. And they might have some sort of reference to another channel. So there's going to be so many different tools. And I know it can be quite overwhelming in terms of what to use. But sometimes if you want to go for a role, or you're looking for a role, let's look at maybe 10 different jobs with that role and look at the similar skills that they're looking for. And then you can start to adapt your research accordingly, because if you want to go for that role, or you want to maintain the new things that's happening in that role, that's something that you would do. So I think just kind of being connected, and if you ever feel like you're got a bit of discrepancy in that area, just ask people. That's why I think networking is so key.
I think as well, just real quickly, to kind of piecemeal it in terms of there's certain different buzzwords and keywords, acronyms within a certain skill set. Just pick a couple at a time and dive into those, learn those back to front, then go and do some more. Because as Dominic said, or he mentioned it in your question about blocking out the noise, if you take on too much, nothing's going to stay in. So don't put yourself under that pressure. Just pick out a couple of little bits and pieces, focus on those, then move on to the next one. And I think that's something that I kind of follow in life anyway, because my brain can't cope with much more. So I just pick out little things and just do bits at a time, and it makes it easy to digest it and to stay in.
Right. Can you share your experience working in a small team? I realize there's always multitasking issues, which requires you to learn different skills aside from your main.
I've worked in teams. Go on. Sorry.
I think I missed. I was talking and we missed the beginning of the question. So do you want to say it again, and then do you want to say then somebody can answer it?
Okay. Can you share your experience working in a small team? I realize there is always multitasking issues, which require you to learn different skills aside your main.
I can give some answers on that. So I think I've been fortunate to my first data analyst role, I was one of two data analysts. And in my second role, actually, I was the first data analyst. So I think, if you're trying to get into a job for the first time, you will have to take on to those roles that will require being in a small team. Because if the team is poorly well built, they probably maybe depend on what they're looking for, you might not get the opportunity. So when you get into those kind of roles, you will have to multitask. My first role as a data analyst, I was not just doing data analysis work, I was probably doing IT support and all things like that. But it comes with you being a problem solver. As an analyst, you might be dragged into roles that will require not just your technical skills, but your soft skills as well. But if you haven't got leverage, then that is probably the route that you have to take. I have another question here from Dom that was directed to me. He's asking about when it comes to generative AI, what do I think about AI and it's prospect for data analysis. I see it as an assistant, the same way I have used it to, the kind of presentation I presented, I used ChatGPT to do that. That is the same way I see AI. It is an assistant, and if you use that, then you can spend more time doing the building up the storytelling, the presentation of your insights, without you having to get bogged down with doing exploratory data analysis. You can get AI to do that for you, to generate all the visuals, and then just focus on, how do I tell the story? How do I present this to my stakeholders?
I think
And there's one for Dominic as well. Have you seen that, Dominic?
Which one?
Is there a structured learning path to progress from data analysis to data engineer or data DevOps?
It's funny, there probably is, there probably isn't. How I kind of went from my transition was I was headhunted at the time, because when my contract finished before, as a data specialist, I was going through that transition towards cybersecurity. So I was obviously getting certified in that area, and obviously was putting it on my CV as well. Again, what kind of a job do you want? I was adding it to my CV. I was getting headhunted, and then the opportunity came up. So I actually became what's known as SRE. It's actually a Google term. And then that kind of started off the whole DevOps path for me. So structured wise, there probably is, but I didn't go for a structured way. It was just kind of like me being proactive, getting myself certified, and then I kind of went into the area. So I went from data to SRE/DevOps. Then I went from DevOps into DevSecOps. So it's kind of like what I ultimately wanted to do. I went from hop, and then I went to where I went to go to. So there probably is, but I can't answer and say that there is. That's how I did it.
Right.
Cool. Guys,
I
just
think-
jump in there real quick. One, sorry,
Okay.
questions here, and that I know that Henry mentioned, can you give us a typical day as a data analyst? I know we have that there is a BDPN newsletter somewhere. Hang on a sec. I'll just click the wrong button. One sec. There is a link. I'm going to share in the links.
While Ian is doing that, I must ask a question. Do I think data analysis will be relevant in the future as more AI tools is taking that up? Yes, I think that there'll always be data analysis. Data analysts only don't only just analyze data. They do lots more than creating reports. So those data will still need to be verified. We can't just hand our lives over to the computer. So there'll always be, with the exponential growth of data, there'll always be data analysts.
Yeah, I think as well. I don't know if you remember, like years and years ago, people used to get into accounting, and then with all these different softwares coming out, the accounting started to go down. So therefore, some people are still accounting, but it's like because of the software that's coming out, that became less of a demand, and obviously data became more of a demand. So obviously, as data is still in demand, but now you've got the whole AI evolution. Now people are, so am I needed now? I could just press a button, I could just ask a question, am I needed? The truth is it will still be needed. It will still be needed, because there's also, even me now working in cybersecurity, there's articles going about all these different vulnerabilities, viruses, maliciousware, even in the AI world. So like what Nedum just said, you can't fully depend on AI and just sit back, because it would be very silly for a company or enterprise just say, okay, let's cut all of these people. We don't need them. Let's keep back our money and let's just use AI, because as soon as something goes wrong, what's going to happen? Then you're going to be hit with an opportunity. They have to now start reaching out to professionals to try and fix this issue that they have, but their reputation's really gone downhill. So I really believe AI helps. Even in my job now, sometimes people that I'm working with, they need to do something quickly and they might use AI to help them, but that AI would just be like a help in terms of targets or deadlines, but it wouldn't be like a complete substitution for their role. I just don't think it will get to that stage. If it was to get to that stage, then yeah, I don't see it being in the near future. I think it's helping us now with what we're doing, but to completely cut off a data analyst or a DevOps or any kind of role, I think it would be quite silly to do so, to be quite honest.
Cool. Sorry, guys, I've got to jump in again. Look, Blaze, if you have any specific questions you want to ask Dominic, Nedum, Blaze, or myself, Blaze has got our LinkedIn profiles, and he's going to paste those into the chat now. Is that right, Blaze? Yeah.
Yeah, I've pasted them earlier.
Okay, cool.
Still paste them again.
Have a look for the chat, guys, and please connect with me or anybody else that has got information on for the LinkedIn connections. I wanted to share my screen real quickly. I don't know what happened. I was about to share it earlier. Did I get cut out? Did I get cut off? Did I?
Yes.
A few minutes ago, no? Anyway. No. Okay, cool. So this is the one of our future events that we've got coming up. I can't find it now. Here we go. So this is taking place in September. It's our first in-person event, so I'd love you all to attend. It's free of charge. It's at the Salesforce building in Southwark, Southeast 10 London. So myself, Tolu Adebekan, who is the head of data visualization at Sky TV, he's doing a presentation. Philip Sewell, he runs a data company called Predictable. He's going to do a little talk. Buki Masaku, an author. So we've got some sponsors there as well. But basically, following our socials on LinkedIn, you better see a bit more about this event. 6 p.m. to 8:30 on Thursday, the 21st of September. Okay. I think we've got to date, there's about 50 people that are going to be attending, something like that. So I'm going to put the link for this in the chat, and you can register and attend. Thank you. Over to you, Blaze.
Yes, please. So those links have all been they've all been put up in the chat by myself earlier. So if we just scroll through the chat, we'll see the links there. Yeah, and I would say that's all from my side. We have definitely come to the end of the session for today. If you want to say anything, you can unmute yourself, everybody, and thank you all for joining.
Yeah, please, if you want to say something, please let us know now. Now's the time to do so.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so my name's Adrian Mensakoka, and I was fortunate enough to get a connect from Ian to attend this session. And I just wanted to say that association is really key to the development of one's knowledge in this sector, whether we're talking about a data science, data analysis, data engineering, or even Dominic's role, which was a combination of DevOps and Sec. You know, it's about the association, and there's not enough of us within this space. So this platform is sorely needed, and I hope that it goes from strength to strength. And
thank you.
Two things that I found anytime, Ian, two key things that I found are important are motivation and continuity. So as long as you're motivated, and I think Dominic touched on this earlier within his presentation or his speech, that you should know why you want to do what you're going to be doing, and then just get on with it and have that consistency, whether it's an hour a day, 2 hours a day, or till the pigeons start chirping. And once you do, then you develop yourself, and then, you know, you just go from strength to strength. So yeah, BDPN, you know, hopefully soon $1 trillion company.
Very well put.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Adrian.
Anytime.
Super. Anybody else?
Hi guys.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, please.
Yeah. All right. I'm just gonna put my face up so you guys can see me. I just wanted to say thank you for the outstanding presentation. I mean, you covered so many topics that are so integral for us as the growth of individuals, not just in this space, but because of who we are in this space. I've come out of a IT background, and you guys are going to laugh when I tell you this, but I haven't done IT in 20 years. I used to be a network consultant. I used to troubleshoot computers through TCP/IP, remote networking for a big bank in the States. And since I've come back here, I've not really gotten into IT, but the last few years I've been really interested in what's going on in the data analysis space, because not only because things are changing digitally, but everything is changing as far as work-wise, remote working and everything like that. But I'm going to just sum it up and say thank you so much, Dominic and Nedum, Blaze, and obviously Ian, who I got the invitation from, because I'm right in the middle of, well, I'm almost finishing my Google Data Analytics certificate. So I'm just really just getting to grips with that and trying to finish that. And I'm just really excited that I've been invited, and as Adrian said, a network, it really helps us to forge a bond with each other, discuss ideas with each other, and just see where we can take this. So
Yeah,
I just want to
definitely.
say,
I mean, that's, honestly, Frank, it's so nice, man, to hear that you got value from today, which is what it's all about. I said to Blaze, to Nedum, to Dominic that I didn't want to start something and then just run away from it and not add value. I wanted to kind of keep it going. I want everyone to kind of get involved, and so we can lean on each other and help each other out. Ultimately,
absolutely.
with my background, if I can open up doors going forwards for individuals, then that's what I want to do as well. We're going to have a section on the website where, for example, you and I can have a video conversation that's recorded, that'll be hosted on the website about for 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, about what you want to do, about who you are as an individual, what your skills are, what your experiences are, and what you want to do. And then that will be only accessible by employers by password, and they can go on there and view the videos of candidates and listen to them and see, whether they want to take someone on based upon what you're saying in that little video interview. So that is the next steps coming in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, definitely we want to keep it going. So your input is fantastic, your feedback's fantastic. So but yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much for the feedback, man. Love it.
I'm just totally blessed to actually meet you guys, because in this space you can feel so alone when you're trying to grasp concepts and assimilate those concepts and everything, and just hearing you brothers talk about stuff that is not always talked about especially if you want to talk about employment and workspaces. This is something that's cutting edge, and I love cutting edge technology. So here we are. Thank you guys. God bless you all, and be looking forward to seeing you guys on the 21st of September.
Superb, man. Superb. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Let me just quickly say as well. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Franklin, for that. It's so true, especially like with a lot of our backgrounds and our cultures. We don't like to ask for help. We try to do things by ourselves. It's like I made it, but it's no man's island. We need to understand that there are like-minded people that actually genuinely want to see you succeed. And if we all want to succeed together, because me and Nedum was talking about this actually just before the webinar, how some people, their mindset is very much like, well, let me just do what everyone else is doing. Let me do what my uncle or my father or my cousin and all these other people, because you've seen that. But there's nothing wrong with you stepping out and doing something different. There's nothing wrong with you being a data professional or DevOps, whatever the case is. Too many people are kept in this bubble, and it's like, no, step out. There are people that will help you, and as long as we help out each other, there's a concept of synergy. We could do a lot more with togetherness. Don't just do it by yourself, because you're going to feel alone. If you feel alone, who are you going to turn to? If you do it by yourself, you're going to be discouraged when you have a bad day at work or a bad month, or you have a certain boss or somebody who's over you and they're a supervisor, and you're just like, maybe I shouldn't even be here. No, you should be there, but you need to speak with somebody who can be able to help you. Say, no, don't worry about that. This is what I went through. So we can kind of speak to each other in terms of our experiences, and that's how we grow together. So crucial. Association, networking is absolutely crucial. Don't do it by yourself.
Definitely, because it's only reaches out to me if I can't help you, but I might know somebody who can, and vice versa. Do you know what I mean? So exactly that. Superb. Anyone else going to say anything before we wrap it up? Superb. All right, guys. Hopefully I'll see you. Oh, sorry, Ahmed.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself. Okay, good.
Oh, all right. Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for this. Like, this is the first time just coming across this community. So honestly, I must appreciate you guys. You take a lot of time and effort to put the talks together and at least ready to pull up each other's shoulder. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
No worries, man. You're welcome. It's the first one, so you're the first of many.
That's it.
Superb. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care of yourself.
All right.
Take care,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Guys, thanks again.
Connect on
Have a
LinkedIn.
great day.
Yes.
Have a great day. Take care, guys.